morning, PSW staff, clients, and friends. Join us for Tuesday. Hope you guys had a great vacation yesterday for Labor Day. And it's good to be back live. Although, how would you know if I'm live? Right? Because I record these before. But trust me, I'm live. Or am I? Today we're going to, just because Monday we weren't there, today I'd still like to do another Tuesday film scoring class. So we'll see the results for Friday still. So you can get that into me by tomorrow. You guys are pretty quick. I'm pleasantly surprised every time. We looked at Dick Tracy last week, and that was the great results for that. And now I thought, I don't know, this image is so iconic, and we've seen it. I know you've seen it. Didn't really know that much about this movie, but I thought, why not? We should score a silent movie, a scene from a silent film. So we'll talk about that. So today, we're going to be looking at A Trip to the Moon.
The shell coming closer every minute, the moon magnifies rapidly until finally it attains colossal dimensions. Suddenly, the shell pierces the eye of the moon. The shell comes down with a crash. The astronomers get out and are delighted at the landscape, which is new to them.
Some people call this the first science fiction film ever made. I know some of you guys like science fiction. People have also said it's more fantasy-like. I can see that, but the subject is science fiction. And mostly what we're going to be... This all came from the wonderful mind of Georges Méliès, French illusionist, really interested in magic and in the theater. And he was an actor, film director, really innovative for a lot of technical and film things that we do today, like cross dissolves and stuff like that. He was one of the early, French, of course, and used a lot of special effects. Interested in magic, and if you would think, if you liked magic, with the invention of the camera, the projector, all that stuff that was coming in the late 19th century, you're probably like a kid in a candy store, because it's like, and this is what he would do, you could start and stop time, right? I mean, part of what a magician does is trick of the eye stuff. But if you can show it, and supposedly this was an accident where he was filming something and it got stuck, or he had to restart it, and then he noticed that there was something different going on, and so he was like, well, could I use that image trickery, for movies and stuff? So it's perfect if you're into magic, and that's what he started off as, kind of in the theater. And his movies are very theatrical looking, and it looks like you're kind of in the stage, an audience member. So that's, and also, you don't move the camera, because the camera is huge and weigh a ton, and cumbersome. So the inspiration for this kind of science fiction is Jules Verne, From the Earth to the Moon, and this had one of the largest budgets. He wanted to buy the camera, this projector and camera from the Lumiere brothers, who were these French brothers that some say kind of started cinema, because they invented this. And he wanted to buy it for $10,000. He had a lot of money, and they said no. So he went and built his own studio. So let's go over and see where he did that, right outside of Paris. This is the eastern suburbs of in France, and he built this. And it completely just to develop the film, for all the scenes, for all the special effects, for all the actors, and all this stuff. This took about 3 months. So the movie's about 9 minutes. It depends on what frame rate that you play it at, because it was a different frame rates back then. But about 9 minutes, about 15 minutes, depending. It took about 3 months to do that. It's pretty spectacular. We'll take a look at the scene in a little bit, but. Mostly it follows these astronomers on a trip to the moon, and they have all these little adventures, and then they come back to Earth and all that stuff. So, but very theatrical looking. This is kind of non-reality again. This looks like it's heightened reality. It's not. He was aware that, well, if we're doing a movie, it's already, fake. Why not have some fun with the theatricality of the costumes, of the sets, of all this stuff? As opposed to you know, if you look at space with Kubrick's 2001, I was in 68, right? That almost looks like a documentary, parts of it, you know, even though that's a film. It looks almost like the real thing. So that's not what he's going for right here. He made about 500 of these little short films, and kind of fell into bankruptcy, obscurity, and that stuff until about the 30s, until he was regarded and recognized as one of the early pioneers of movies, because this comes out in 1902. That's, I mean, you know, this is really early. This is before feature films and all that, those kind of, people are still figuring out the camera. This is still all new technology. Obviously there's no sound for another 20 plus years from this point. In 1927 we get talkies. So people are going to be experimenting for the next, you know, 20 years with, and that's one of the advantages too. The disadvantage is that, you know, you don't have sound. Sound is everything. The advantage is that if you don't have sound, you can just film and you can talk directly to the actors. You can, you know, you have so much freedom. But you know, this is before D.W. Griffith, one of the first American, you know, pioneers of movie making, before his movies came out. So 1902, if this comes out, another in Los Angeles, the Electric Theater. It's the first movie theater in the United States to open in LA, so that's that year. Even though this is, you know, going on in France, we have to take a look at globally what's going on. Also, you're getting, I mean, composers are still alive and writing. Mahler's still writing, Ravel and Debussy are still writing. And then in 1902, the same year, a very famous piece comes out, Scott Joplin's Entertainer. This is released. So this is the kind of, we're finally, it's ragtime music and classical music, and now we're kind of getting into the early 20th century of jazz and swing that's about to come in 20 years or so. You know, by the time the 20s happen, it's like the century's solidified as like, okay, this is the new direction film and music is going in, and it's really exciting. So the iconic scene that we're gonna look at is this space capsule going into the you know, the face of the moon. So already it's surreal, right? It's not really, we know the moon doesn't have a face, but you know, George Méliès said, you know, why can't it? Maybe it could. So this is, you know, the astronomers are going to the moon. This is the man on the moon watches the capsule going, and it hits him in the eye. So it's pretty funny. So let's take a look at the scene. So this is working kind of like animation, where you kind of do frame by frame. You know, although they're drawing it, but here you can stop the cameras and then make an adjustment, and then start the camera again, and then stop it, make an adjustment. They call that substitution splice technique. Now we don't really even think of using that term because we just do it, but back then that was how he would splice his shots together, and you could see the magic happening like that. Very fun to do that because you can control everything. You can stop it and you can work on something for days and then stop it again, start it again, and then, you know, you gradually make this movie happen and come to life. Very magical. A lot of film piracy went on with him and with this movie, because Edison and people in the United States were just, you know, you could just screen somebody else's movie and charge tickets. So he didn't make money at all off these things, even though they were his inventions. So that's unfortunate. And music-wise, I mean, they're silent films, obviously. Sometimes they would be, you know, Millet and other people would say, well, there should be a narrator and maybe some sound effects and some music. It was up to whoever was releasing it, projecting it, and charging for it. It was kind of like you could do whatever you wanted. So there was never a score for this movie, a specific score for this movie. Exhibitors could screen it. So that's kind of why I thought this could be fun, because this can kind of be whatever we want it to be, in a sense. Let's take a look at the scene again. I mean, obviously there's no music, so I didn't do it again, but let's just, I want you to take a look. So fun, right? I mean, and you've probably seen it just for a clip or so. I mean, I never have watched the movie until kind of now, and it's funny. It's very surreal. I guess there was this actor that was covered in black velvet, you know, the moon, the face of the moon, and he was on a chair, and it pulled him toward the camera. So the camera's not moving. The actor, the actor on the stand is moving toward the camera. So that's how that effect is. Because you know, it was just so cumbersome to move a camera back then, because they were so bulky. So I want you to have fun with this scene. This is, again, you're the composer, so for a silent movie you can come up with any tone you want. I would think, because it's science fiction-y, you know, make it fun, make it kind of magical, make it surreal if you want. You know, probably no lyrics, you know, I mean, my usual spiel. But I do want there to be creativity, because a lot of composers will take old silent films and rescore them, and it doesn't need to sound like it's from 1902. I mean, Philip Glass does that with Cocteau films, where it's a completely new minimalist score. So it doesn't look, it's not supposed to be from that era. So it doesn't have to be from that era. So we can have a lot of fun with this, because, so if you want to write in that 1902 genre of classical music, that's fine too. If you want to do something kind of more hip and modern, that's fine too. So this will be too much fun. Hope you guys don't have too much fun, because not in my class. You can do that outside of my class, but let's keep it, whatever. I'm just teasing. I'm happy to be back. Good to see you guys. And we're going to have a good week. It's going to be short, but it's going to be fun. So get this into me by, you know, tomorrow or so. And we'll see the results on Friday. It's going to be great. Okay. Good to be back, and see you tomorrow. Bye.